The Honourable, the member for Cole Harbour, Eastern Passage.
Here, here! Here, here! Becky King, Becky King. Yeah. There you go.
Thank you.
There you go.
Good evening, Mr. Speaker. Thank you all. It's with great honor and pride that I stand before you this evening in this historic chamber with my mom and dad present to offer my remarks on behalf of the people of Cole Harbour and Eastern Passage. Mr. Speaker, the residents of this riding elected me on a memorable day, October 2nd, 2007. And I take this role very responsibly. The residents of the riding know that I will do everything I can to do my best for the constituency 24/7.
Here, 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 here.
I akin it to being like a parent. One must keep their eyes and ears open all of the time for signals of need of support, celebration and reinforcement for a job well done, challenging inappropriate behaviors, nurturing, and sometimes just offering a shoulder to cry on. These are the things that I'll do for those who are in need. At the same time, advocating for provincial change for the betterment of not only the communities that I serve, but for the entire province of Nova Scotia.
Here, here.
I took an oath to do this, an oath that I believe in strongly, and an oath to work selflessly for the betterment of others. I'd like to take a moment, Mr. Speaker, to thank Her Honour Lieutenant Governor for her presentation of the speech to the throne. It's an honour to be part of this assembly during her term. It's also an honour, you've confused me a little because you switched, an honour to congratulate you on your appointment to the Deputy Speaker.
Thank you.
Good job.
And of course, to the member from Cape Breton, thank you, Victoria the Lakes, Cape Breton West, for his appointment to the Speaker. And the Honourable Member from Cape Breton North. That'd be you, I think. Forgive me, sorry. The Honourable Member from Cape Breton North, your predecessors, for offering the kindness and welcome that was very well received. I appreciate that very much. The Speaker as well has done a great job so far for me, for what it's worth. A job well done. You've been good to me so far, so please keep up the great work. Before moving on to thanking people within my riding and talking about my riding, I want to take a moment to express and offer experience of my serving on Halifax Regional Municipality. The members of council and staff treated me with kindness and respect at every moment from the moment I was elected. It was a steep learning curve for a stay-at-home mom and a small businesswoman to learn the details of providing for a functioning and successful municipality. It was challenging and rewarding at the same time. People often asked me, how did I like my job? And quite often they were surprised. I said I loved it. And I did, and I do. I didn't envision myself in that role. Nonetheless, the residents of District 8, Woodside and Eastern Passage had enough faith in me to represent them at council, and I thank them all for giving me that opportunity and experience. Mr. Speaker, it's not easy making decisions of any level of government, but a municipality of this size faces particular challenges. The capital of the province. It comes with specific expectations for the citizens of all of Nova Scotia that is often taken for granted. I'm proud to have been part of that for the past 3 years. All municipalities across this province face challenges that are particular to their areas, and I look forward, as the critic for Service Nova Scotia and municipal relations, to being a strong voice for those municipalities and getting to know them around the province. Mr. Speaker, at this time I'm compelled to offer a few more thanks, but I'd like to give you notice that I have much to be grateful for, so I'll be a bit long-winded on this one. It was a bit foreboding coming from 5 minutes in council to an offering for an hour, but my kids have often told me I'm never short on words. I am completely humbled by the amazing support shown to me during the election, the by-election in October. The community came out in spades to say that Becky can do the job. At Cole Harbour and Eastern Passage. Supporters came from around the province. The headquarters was buzzing every day with well wishes, food being dropped off, donations, canvassers. You all know the drill. But there was never a shortage of help throughout the 5 weeks of campaigning. Mr. Speaker, the residents of Cole Harbour, Eastern Passage, Cow Bay, Shearwater and Bissett Road were all part of this team. The Cole Harbour Eastern Passage NDP Riding Association is alive and well and thriving and supportive of their newest MLA. Members like Debbie and Wilbur Williams, Gary Healy, Sue White, Brian Burt, and Kim Byrne, to name a few. I thank them for their continued belief in the NDP party. Of course, I need to thank my colleagues in the NDP caucus for their genuine, often genuine, welcoming to the fold. Our incredible leader of the opposition and member for Cole Harbour is leading a formidable team to whom I am honoured to be part of. Our future is very bright. And I look forward to working with you all. Specifically, I owe a debt of gratitude to David McKenzie for being my campaign manager. One time, actually more affectionately referred to as my campaign weasel by a local radio show host.
Oh, that's nasty.
David was quite quiet and thoughtful, which sometimes was in stark contrast to my excitable and sometimes energetic approach, but we balanced each other well. Other people who certainly were instrumental in the day-to-day work of the campaign were Gary Healy, Margaret Logan, Sue White, Brenda Moores, Holly Brown, and Brian Burt. I could not have gotten through it without their help, so Mr. Speaker, I thank them again. Two young New Democrats that I want to mention specifically are Jeff Millett and Will Muse. These two young men are completely engaged in their community, Mr. Speaker, and they're both role models for their peers. I especially thank them for being proof positive that the youth of our communities have much to offer and contribute.
Hear, 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 hear.
Nita Lyle and Diana White are two lovely ladies who have shown me personally such caring. They were always there looking at me, looking at my eyes, looking at just how I approached the day on a personal level, making sure that you just didn't tire out and you always had the well wishes and the words of encouragement to go on. And I thank them so much for that. Sometimes getting up, you avoid the mirror during a campaign. You just want to keep going and keep your head down and get the job done. And they were instrumental in that. Of course, I have to express, Mr. Speaker, my gratitude to the former MLA for Cole Harbour Eastern Passage, Kevin DeVoe. He saw something in me and many years ago and encouraged me to run for municipal councillor. When the time was right, Kevin nurtured me along to help me be the best that I could for our communities. Thank you, Kevin, for being a great friend and peer. Megan, Ewan, Flavie, and Kevin are on an adventure of a lifetime, an experience that will change people's lives for the better, and I wish them every success in Vietnam. Of course, for any of you who know Kevin, you would also be aware of his dad, Jeep DeVoe.
Here, Jeeper.
A huge thanks goes to Jeep. Jeep has taken me under his wing and often referred to me as like a daughter. He is a resident of Eastern Passage who is in his senior years, but somehow shows more energy, drive, and passion for his community than people half his age. Jeep is a shining example, Mr. Speaker, of what all seniors in our province deserve to be. Vibrant, healthy, and engaged citizens. Jeep, of course, will continue to visit our constituency office with issues written on a napkin that bringing forward, making sure someone is paying attention, and we will all be the better for it. So I thank you, thank Jeep, Mr. Speaker, for being Jeep. I have to spend a few minutes, of course, on my partner, Darren Lightfoot, and my sons, Isaac, Tyler, and Matthew. Without their support, I could not be here. Darren is my best friend and confidant. When I first talked about getting involved in politics, I spoke with my sons about it. Their response was, "Of course you should do this, Mom. It's perfect for you." What mother could have walked away from that support? To know that my sons were paying attention enough to recognize my strengths and encourage me to pursue a goal that included doing something for my community, it is a blessing, and it's a sign of a connected family. And in times of these busy schedules and so many influences in our lives, both positive and negative, Mr. Speaker, it's easy to lose sight of each other in a family, even in the most blessed families. There are so many families out there who are not as fortunate. I want what I have in my life for all of the citizens of my riding and for the citizens of Nova Scotia. To have anything less is unacceptable in my books. Before I move away from the thank yous, I want to speak again of my parents, Frank and Vivian Scott, of Shelburne County. The member for Shelburne has the pleasure of being their representative, and I can tell you they're very proud to say that they voted for him. Even more so now. My mom and dad are a typical family in this beautiful province of Nova Scotia. They've raised 6 children in a rural community. Through good times and then bad, they've continued to strive for what is best for their families and for their community. I came by this honestly. My dad has worked for this province for more than 30 years. My mom was a stay-at-home mom until we were old enough for her to become a personal care worker at the Roseway Manor in Shelburne. They taught me to work hard for the people that I cared for and to be kind to everyone that I came across. They taught me the value of being part of a family and sharing what you have with those who have not. I can't say enough about the impact that they had on me and subsequently on my children and the people who I come in contact with.
Thank you.
I often relate my experience as a child, which by no means was always perfect, right, Mom? Dad? Mr. Speaker, to the scenario of pay it forward. It's an example of giving twice as much as you've received every chance you get to the next person that you come in contact with. I thank them, Mr. Speaker, for instilling in me a value that has led me to want goodness for all families of the province of Nova Scotia. Now, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to continue on with sharing a bit of about the riding of Cole Harbour and Eastern Passage. This riding is the best in the province, in my humble opinion. It has a tremendous, among the best. I'll concede that. It's my story and I'm sticking to it, Mr. Speaker. It is tremendous, has tremendous history, tremendous people and landmarks. Mr. Speaker, this riding deserved to be represented. And on behalf of the people of Cole Harbour and Eastern Passage, I wish to recognize the member from Cole Harbour and the leader of the opposition, and the member from Dartmouth South, Portland Valley, for continuing to provide excellent representation and leadership during an extended wait for the by-election to be called. Clearly, the residents wanted that election, but I guess the riding just wasn't quite important enough to call it before the 6-month deadline. Nonetheless, they're represented now, despite the fact that there were people during the election that sent out a message that, quote, Becky can't. And Mr. Speaker, I am here to tell you clearly they missed the boat on this one. Somehow, somewhere, they got the impression that this election was about a single person. The author of this message and those who endorsed it, Mr. Speaker, seem to miss the true meaning of what being an elected representative was all about.
That's right. Being
a voice for your community. No one person can get the job done for a riding. It takes all of the residents to work with their MLA, Mr. Speaker, to communicate loudly, advocate for what is right, share their stories, work on behalf of the community. No one person can get a high school for Eastern Passage. It will take a community voice to get the job done. It will take leadership from a government who sees a community in need, overdue in need, in fact, more clearly. Leadership from a government that will make sure that the right thing is done. Mr. Speaker, no one person is going to get a health facility for this riding. It will take a community, of which I am one player. It takes a responsible government, however, not a government who will endorse messages during an election campaign that if you don't elect their party, you won't get anything for that community.
The new Nova Scotia.
What kind of government would hold a riding hostage like that? The riding of Cole Harbour and Eastern Passage and the province of Nova Scotia deserve to have better, Mr. Speaker, and I look forward to making that happen. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to take some time to show you a little bit of Cole Harbour and Eastern Passage, what it's currently like. It's beautiful, to say the least. It has its challenges, of which I'll speak a bit later. But for now, I want to highlight the positives what you would find if you visit our riding. As you wind your way through the streets of Cole Harbour, you'll be flanked by Bissett Lake, Morris Lake, and the Shearwater Flyer Trail. Cole Harbour has the benefit of hosting many top-notch athletic fields, parks, playgrounds, trails, schools, First Nation communities, churches, community groups. The Cole Harbour Parks and Trails Association has been successfully developing the Rails to Trails program in the area for several years. Under the helm of Jim Tudor, the Salt Marsh Trail and the Shearwater Trail now connect to Shearwater. Bill Stratton, with the Kiwanis, have successfully created a tremendous asset known as the Kiwanis Central Beach Park, Morris Lake. Efforts to provide an accessible park for all ages and abilities have come to reality, and I congratulate them, Mr. Speaker. Volunteerism is great in Cole Harbour and is clearly evident in the programs for athletes, both young and old. Their Girl Guides, the Scouting Movement, church groups. Bissett Road also connects Cole Harbour to Cow Bay. The people of this area enjoy their rural setting with access to the advantages of the commercial strip on Cole Harbour Road. Although the residents of this area would love to see transit service, They do value their rural existence and their nature, direct access to the nature in their community at their doorsteps, their trails and parks. I look forward to getting to know these residents in their area and to work for them on their behalf and with them. As you leave Bissett Road, Mr. Speaker, and you enter into Cow Bay, Cow Bay is the home of Rainbow Haven Provincial Park, Silver Sands Beach Park and Surf Park, also known as the Cow Bay Moose Park, and the Car Wash Beach. Each of these locations, Mr. Speaker, have a particular importance and significant historical backgrounds to this community. Silver Sands Beach Park was a hot spot for vacations at the turn of the century for many affluent Dartmouthians and Haligonians. The Moose Park is still affectionately known as the place where many of families were created and while watching the stars and watching for shooting stars on cold winter nights. I kid you not.
Frank there?
The coastlines are typical of what Nova Scotia shorelines are. They're beautiful. An increase in the popular sport and pastime of surfing has been on the rise in Cow Bay. This has brought challenges, Mr. Speaker, but the community, along with the Surfers Association, are working hard to mitigate the impact on their properties, and I congratulate them for that. They took a tough situation and turning it around to be a positive, welcoming sport and athletic destination, and I congratulate them. Silver Sands Conservation Society, Mr. Speaker, with members such as Elizabeth Quint, Donald Hudak, and Todd King, just to name a few, are watchful eyes for the protection of the natural environment in this community, the rural nature of the Cow Bay properties. Their efforts have on many occasions been successful in sustaining what this community loves and holds dear. The Cow Bay Hall is lovingly tended by many volunteers who work there to maintain this historically significant asset for the future generations of its community. The Cow Bay Loop is connected to the Dyke Road. Although this is a rural setting, Mr. Speaker, ongoing development presents traffic problems that many families struggle with. Some believe that the rural atmosphere is important, while others would like to see transit, sewer, water, and sidewalks in their neighborhood. The pressures of development are ever present in this area. Eastern Passage is bordered by backlands of shearwater at the Atlantic Ocean, Heartland Point Golf Course, Fisherman's Cove, along the main road, and back to the Shearwater main gates. Mr. Speaker, entering into Eastern Passage from Cow Bay brings you to Heritage Hills, a subdivision that is the host of a P3 school in our community. The schools in our communities are the heart of our communities, Mr. Speaker, and access to these schools is what will make our communities thrive. They allow them to thrive and grow and continue to sustain that sense of community that many places are losing. Access to the schools in our P3 school is almost non-existent.
Shame. We're going to get more of them. 4 hours you don't get in. Let's hope not. Tell us what it's like at P3 school.
In our P3 schools, Mr. Speaker, we have tremendous staff and administration through the Halifax Regional School Board. But to get gym time, to get into the auditorium that is state-of-the-art, just to get on the fields to play soccer is nearly impossible. At the cost that's outrageous. When the community is sustaining those costs, fundraising for so many things, it's unacceptable this day and age in this province that we should have to face that, Mr. Speaker. The heart of Eastern Passage is proud of 3 other schools, Seaside Elementary, Ocean View, and Tallahassee Community School. They're connected by our Eastern Passage Commons, which provide baseball fields, soccer fields, community fairgrounds. The Eastern Passage Athletic Association is instrumental in providing those programs, and we thank them. Mr. Speaker, volunteerism is also strong in these communities. Notable organizations like the Buffalo Club, with members like Tony Osmond, Richard DeYoung, Bill MacArthur, Troy Popke, just to name a few, keep this club active and productive and contributing to our community in more ways than most people will ever know. Thousands of members have been in that club for the past 50 years, and many people just have no idea how much they've contributed, and we thank them. Although many Lions clubs are closing their doors, the Eastern Passage Lions Club is still thriving. King Lion, Peter Reed, leads his volunteer team in many benevolent activities such as Adopt a Highway and the Seeing Eye Dog program, for example. The Kane branch of Legion continues to honor its veterans and all of the members of our Canadian Armed Forces. The Girl Guides of Canada and Scouts Canada offer programs to the youth in the riding. Special thanks to those who get involved often because it's their child. They want to have time with their child in their busy schedules. But these leaders so often end up being a key and instrumental person in the lives of so many other families, and I thank them for that. They are tremendous role models, leaders such as Donna Mitchell, Elsie Foley, Cindy Morash, Jennifer Irving, Darren Lightfoot, Steve McKay, Mike Gingell, Keegan Gingell, Jim Logan, Steve Matheson, Julie Wilson, Peggy Keynes, Greg Dowsell, Joel Rayfuse, Gerald Giroux, Adam Mason, Patrick Power are just a few of those who are active in the scouting movement and the Girl Guiding movement in our riding. I was a member of Scouts Canada for 10 years, so these people certainly have a special place in my heart, and I thank them. A special occasion and a perfect example of what it's like to be a volunteer in the community, we have a tremendous event coming up on the weekend, December 2nd, a community tree trimming event celebrating its 18th year. We have the benefit of the Conserve Nova Scotia LED light exchange added to it this year, and we're thankful for that. Economic development is vital to all communities in Nova Scotia. Cole Harbour and Eastern Passage is no different. The commercial areas of the riding are growing, which is good news. General Dynamics is offering new jobs in the Cole Harbour area, while new businesses are opening at Government Wharf Road, like Seagulps. It's a coffee shop. It was voted #1 coffee shop in Dartmouth recently, and we congratulate them.
Here, 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 here.
Fisherman's Cove is alive and well and thriving. The Eastern Passage Business Network is a new network recently formed to help small businesses in the community link, offer resources to each other to aid in their success. There's a working balance, Mr. Speaker, between tourism and the fishing industry in Eastern Passage. But our fishermen need government support. Family-based fishermen must have access to fair quotas, their fair share of the quotas. With the high value of the Canadian dollar, Mr. Speaker, they'll need government support in securing other markets that are less impacted by that high value. And Eastern Passage fishermen know that all too well. I want to tell you about our seniors in our community, Mr. Speaker. They are vitally important to us. Many of them still live in their own homes. Many are living in seniors' housing complexes like Island View Manor and McDonald Manor, and some at a long-term care facility, Ocean View Manor, one of the finest in this province, Mr. Speaker. I have the honor of being on the board at Ocean View, so I'm familiar with the need of support from the province for this and many facilities across this province. The wait lists for these facilities is too long. Any wait is too long, in my opinion. Our seniors deserve to be cared for and living in their communities with their friends and their loved ones. Whether in long-term care or living at home, support from our government is critical for their quality of life. The challenges of aging are numerous and sometimes monumental. Between health care gaps, home care support, and increasing taxes, sometimes forcing them out of their homes prematurely, Seniors in our province need our help. Families caring for their elder loved ones need our help. This message is one that I heard loud and clear on the doorsteps during the election, Mr. Speaker. Recognition of these issues and offering the resources to meet these needs is a must-do for any government. I truly hope that this is part of the vision of the new Nova Scotia that's being put forward. I hope. But once again, it can't be in the year 2020. Our seniors are here and they need help now. Our riding is proud to be the home of the Canadian Forces Base Shearwater, one of Canada's largest employers in the metro area. There has been, in the past, a fear of closure of this base. But recently, in the past couple of years, federal government has committed significant amounts of funding, which has achieved a fleet diving school, the Nova Scotia Community College helicopter training facility, which is currently under construction. I have had the pleasure of working with the former base commander, Colonel Alan Blair. He was a tremendous friend to the community and worked side by side with myself as the councillor and Kevin DeVoe as our MLA.
Good guy, Kevin.
Recently, the base commander has changed to Colonel Bruce Plowman. I'm proud to say that he's a resident of our riding, so I'm confident that he will be as friendly a face to the community of Eastern Passage, Cow Bay, and the rest of the riding, and he will keep their interests at the forefront of his decisions as much as Colonel Blair. My best wishes go out to Colonel Blair as he begins the next stages of his career, and I welcome Colonel Plowman, Mr. Speaker. Military presence in our riding is no stranger to our communities. Many servicemen and women settle in our communities to raise their families. They know they're settling in a community that they are valued, honored, respected, and supported. They are our families, our friends, our loved ones, our schoolmates, our Curves partners, our Seagulps and Tim Hortons coffee buddies. They know that this community is there to help them when they are in need and are facing the challenges that are often come with a loved one making the ultimate sacrifice of defending our country and fighting for peace, Mr. Speaker. Deployment to distant lands comes with tremendous burdens, one that our communities will share the load. This is the kind of community, Mr. Speaker, that I've chosen to raise my family in. This is my wish for all Nova Scotians. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the jewels in our harbour, McNabb's Island and Lawler's Island. Local friend of the island, Captain Redbeard, Mike Tilley, and a new ferry service, Tailor Made Tours, operated by Steve Taylor, is finding lots of interest, Mr. Speaker, in these islands. A great big thank you goes out to the Friends of McNabb's Association, Mr. Speaker. Kathy McCarthy has been leading a team of volunteers in the preservation and protection of these lands for many years. It's worth noting, though, that they're becoming increasingly frustrated, Mr. Speaker, with this government's lack of interest in this island. They welcome the process for creating a long-term plan for the island and the release of the document with significant plans for restoration and development of the wharves and the parkland. But it's not good enough, Mr. Speaker, to say that you have a plan and then leave it on the shelf to collect dust. This work is not only important to my riding, it's important to Halifax Regional Municipality, and it's important to the province of Nova Scotia. This is an historically significant site that must have funding allocations to support this plan. That this plan was well thought out, and it included the stakeholders, such as Friends of McNabb and residents of Eastern Passage. It deserves attention, Mr. Speaker, and I look forward to seeing that. Residential growth is ever present in the riding. Many new developments are happening as we speak, literally. Halifax Regional Municipality's 25-year regional plan has designated an area of growth in and around the Morris Lake area. This is directly behind the Shearwater Air Force Base and joins the communities of Cole Harbour and Eastern Passage within the riding. Of particular importance, Mr. Speaker, is the growth is the infrastructure, or lack of. Roads and transportation are critical to the success of these communities. The traffic on Caldwell Road and Cow Bay Road continue to contribute to speeding issues, crosswalk safety, deteriorating roads and transportation gaps, all of which could be more easily dealt with by appropriate funding from this government to the municipality. Transit connection and service to and from Cole Harbour and Eastern Passage is long overdue. Increased transit service to Cow Bay and Bissett Road is also long overdue. It's not a shock, Mr. Speaker, to hear that there is further need for transit funding, road infrastructure funding, trail development and maintenance funding, and funding for partnerships with HRM to see the completion of the Caldwell Road connector. Healthy and active lifestyles, Mr. Speaker, are critical to the well-being of all citizens of this province. So it will come as no surprise that the people of Eastern Passage will be mobilizing, Mr. Speaker, to work with the 3 levels of government to create a health and recreation facility for Eastern Passage. Hear, 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 hear. As well, Mr. Speaker, there is a tremendous amount of work being done by the Cole Harbour Parks and Trails Association on the Shearwater Flyer, as I mentioned earlier, the Salt Marsh Trail, the parklands. But this local community effort is only part of the picture. Maintenance funding is critically important to the sustainability of these infrastructures, these trails, and the lasting effects that they will have on our families. And we all know, Mr. Speaker, that education is on the minds of all the families in the province. Education funding must be increased to the levels that our school boards need to responsibly provide for the education of our children and our youth. The ongoing maintenance funding gaps and aging schools is at a critical point in this area. The Halifax Regional School Board is currently undergoing, as directed by the Minister of Education, a 10-year plan. It sounds exciting and sexy, but what is the reality of this for the residents of Cole Harbour and Eastern Passage? The reality is, Mr. Speaker, that the families of Eastern Passage and Cow Bay have been in need of a high school for more years than I can remember. After being promised a new school by the Liberals roughly 12 years ago, then at the 11th hour, the political will of the day took it to Auburn Drive. The reality is, Mr. Speaker, that in the recent by-election, the message came out loud and clear to the people that if they didn't vote for a Conservative candidate, they would never get a high school from our government. The reality is, the reality is that finally, last year, Mr. Speaker, after many years of advocating with the Halifax Regional School Board, we finally were on a list of priorities for new schools. That list was sent to the Minister of Education, Mr. Speaker, for consideration. A new high school for the Woodside and Eastern Passage area was recommended on that list. Finally, there was some hope for the families. Then, go figure, the minister decided that she didn't like the rules, like what she was seeing, but rather she'd like the school board to waste another year talking about the schools that should be built, closed, fixed for the next 10 yees. So forgive me, Mr. Speaker, if I can't share in the enthusiasm and excitement of today's celebration at Citadel High. A 70-person committee struck under the guidance of an Upper Canadian consulting group, who frankly, Mr. Speaker, knows very little of the families in our area. One would think that we don't have a Nova Scotia firm that could do the job. Nonetheless, it's taking place right now. Don't get me wrong, Mr. Speaker. I congratulate and I thank every one of the people that are volunteering on that committee, because I know they're out there working hard. They're doing the best that they can, and what they honestly feel for their communities. But I challenge this government for changing of the rules mid-game. I am not confident, Mr. Speaker, that this new set of rules is in the best interest of our communities. But, Mr. Speaker, I'll keep an open mind. I'll put faith in this committee to see the benefits to the community of Eastern Passage and Cow Bay of a new high school that will allow our children to get up at a reasonable hour to get to school, not at their current 6 a.m. wake-up call for 750 students to be bused to Cole Harbour and provide 3/4 of the population at Cole Harbour District High. I'll put faith in this committee, Mr. Speaker, in seeing the benefits to the youth of the community who miss out on opportunities to partake in school sports teams because they don't live in the community where the sign is being posted for tryouts, or where they miss out on opportunities for part-time jobs. I'll have faith in this committee to make sure that the youth of our community are no longer attending a school that is overcrowded, where they rub shoulder to shoulder every time they walk in the halls before and after school. These are just a few of the challenges that will change when a new high school comes to Eastern Passage. I have faith in this committee that it will once again send a list of schools to be built to the Minister of Education with a recommendation of a high school, and the current minister will finally do what the community has been in need of in this province. As one resident recently said to me at Imagine Our Schools public meeting, Mr. Speaker, it's time to take the politics out of this decision. So I ask the Minister of Education to hear her message loud and clear.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear.
Crime in our neighbourhoods, Mr. Speaker, is also a concern for the residents in the riding. It's not news to anyone. The speech from the throne mentions a few new measures to fight crime, and I'm grateful for that.
Order,
But
please.
what is needed in crime prevention?
Order, please. I would certainly encourage those that wants to carry on some discussions to take it outside the chamber so we could allow our colleague to be heard in the chamber. Thank you.
What's needed, Mr. Speaker, in crime prevention is what will get at the root causes of crime in our communities. This government must start addressing the causes of crime to successfully reinstate the sense of safety in our communities. Many local organizations are doing just that. YACPAC, Youth and Community Partnership Against Crime, is a grassroots level community organization in Eastern Passage under the leadership of Judy Lightfoot. Judy's experience in the Department of Youth Justice and her current role at the IWK brings tremendous asset to this local organization, and it has much to be proud of. This group has surveyed the community, the youth of the community, and they heard loud and clear that there was a need for a skate park, so they proceeded to make it happen. They heard from the youth that there was a need for a drop-in center, so they're actively working on it, Mr. Speaker. They recognized that they would need a working space for a recently reinstated RCMP community officer, so they provided the space. They've established many neighborhood watch groups, citizens on patrol groups in the community. This work is ongoing, Mr. Speaker, and I'm sure the same types of work are being done in many communities across Nova Scotia. But they can't do it alone. YACPAC receives funding from a federal crime prevention program that has recently been cancelled. Now they're left to their own devices to raise the money to continue their work. Safe communities is not all about adding police officers. More police is wonderful. More police is wonderful.
Put them in Sydney mines.
But a partnership approach is what will change the direction of many of our young people in our communities, away from crime and toward healthy, engaging choices. Root causes can be worked on from a local level, Mr. Speaker, with support of the government. There are many groups and organizations out there that are doing great, vital work, effective work. We must support them at every opportunity, Mr. Speaker. The citizens of Cole Harbour and Eastern Passage are asking for these issues to be addressed, not unlike all the residents and citizens across this province. I am certainly looking forward to, Mr. Speaker, to seeing what the current government plans to do with these gaps in their vision for a new Nova Scotia. As I wrap up my speech, I was a little worried that I wouldn't have enough material, but I would be happy to meet with any and all of you to continue these discussions, to hear about what's important to the riding of Cole Harbour and Eastern Passage, and where I have the privilege of bringing these issues forward to this government. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, we are celebrating 250 years of democracy in this province. I ask this House to work with me to ensure that the people of this province can say with pride that they are happy to celebrate democracy because it is working for them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The Honourable the Minister of Economic Development.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I'm going to move the adjournment of the debate at this time.
The motion to adjourn the debate has been called. Ready for the question? Question. All those in favour of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Against? Motion carried. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I would ask that you call the order of business public bills for second reading.
Public bills for second reading.
Yes,
The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I would ask that you call Bill number 12, the Evidence Act.
Bill number 12, the Evidence Act. The Honourable the Minister of Justice.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to rise and move second reading of Bill number 12, the Evidence Act, the first bill for debate here before the House of Assembly. I know that I look forward to the intervention from our colleagues here this evening. And Mr. Speaker, for us, what we wanted to do and achieve with the Evidence Act, which falls out of the Nunn Commission specifically, Mr. Speaker, with regards to the ability to transfer data. It was stated clearly at the time, and the ability for the system to be able to communicate with one another. The system that would be known as GEN, which is for the administrators within justice, to be able to utilize that system. And Mr. Speaker, one of the things that the Nunn Commission had looked at was the processing time and the ability to exchange data in a timely manner. And Mr. Speaker, for the system to be able to respond more effectively. And so the Evidence Act will enable that process to move forward. And again, Mr. Speaker, I know as I hear from our colleagues on this, we welcome the interventions. We think this is a positive step forward. And again, Mr. Speaker, I'm very pleased to rise today to start the process to move this important bill forward as a response to the Nunn Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Timberley Prospect.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and it's great to see you in that chair, because the piece of advice you gave me earlier when you heard that I had become the justice critic, you would have thought I had taken a summer school course and I was on my way to become a lawyer. Let me clarify, Mr. Speaker, it is with great honour that I accept the responsibility to be the justice critic for the official opposition. It's a position that I look forward to. It's a position that I look forward to serving. The Leader of the Opposition, when our good friend Mr. DeVoe left for Vietnam at the time, I said to him how much I look forward to having the opportunity to be the justice critic at some time, and now the opportunity has arisen. And it looks like a busy schedule that we have ahead of us, and I want to acknowledge the fact that I'm getting lots of great advice, particularly from the Justice Department staff in particular. The Justice Minister, in his briefings that he's had, the staff has been extremely I should say it probably, and the member from Richmond would agree with me, I'm sure, have been extremely patient with the questions from the old school principal who would like to have clarification on various points. The Nunn Commission was, of course, a monumental piece of legislation brought forward. The Nunn Commission served us all because of the tremendous task which the particular gentleman served to this province. When we looked at what had happened through the circumstances of the entire investigation, there were a number of common sense things which struck me. If a fax machine isn't working, evidence doesn't get transferred. In this day and age, my question at the time, as the education critic for the NDP, is that's no way to do business. So that when I see this first piece of legislation that had been brought forward by the minister opposite, it's a common sense piece of legislation. It allows the electronic transfer of information in this day and age, something that should have taken place a long time ago. And the members of the media, the members of this House are aware of the fact that perhaps we wouldn't have had some of the problems that we had that have been brought to our attention by the Nunn Commission. And as a result of that and the good work done by that particular gentleman, it has been recommended that this be brought forward. So I congratulate the minister for responding to that initiative. It's something that I'm sure that when we go through law amendments will be received well by the members of the bar, and it's something which this party can support. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The honourable member for Richmond.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As the Justice Critic for the Liberal Caucus, I'm pleased to have the opportunity to make a few remarks on Bill number 12, an Act to amend Chapter 154 Revised Statutes 1989, the Evidence Act. Mr. Speaker, as has been mentioned by the Minister of Justice, in essence, this is bringing our justice system a bit more into modern-day reality. Speaker, more and more electronic devices are used to present documents in everyday business, and our court system shouldn't be any different. Speaker, we all hope that these changes are going to allow for a more efficient justice system here in Nova Scotia. As has been mentioned by the Minister, this was one of the recommendations that came from the Nunn Commission, which was struck to review the circumstances surrounding the unfortunate death of Teresa McAvoy. Speaker, it became quite clear throughout the review of the Nunn Commission that there were problems within our own justice system and the administration of justice here in Nova Scotia. And Mr. Speaker, I know that this government has been quite vocal on problems with the Youth Justice Act and in calling upon Ottawa and the federal government to make changes, but I think what was a surprise to us and to many Nova Scotians is that we had problems internally here in Nova Scotia that were no fault of the federal government and no fault of the Youth Justice Act. It was a problem in the administration of justice here in our province. And Mr. Speaker, I think it's important that the government realize that and make sure that we're doing everything as a province to ensure that our justice system is working for Nova Scotians and not simply trying to blame the federal government and the Youth Justice Act for problems that exist when there are common sense changes that can be made here within our own province. Mr. Speaker, what I do note of interest is that the Minister of Justice bringing forward this bill was also the former Speaker of this Assembly, and my colleague from Halifax, Clayton Park, was quite adamant in pushing for electronic petitions being accepted here at the House of Assembly. And unfortunately, in his previous life as our Speaker, that notion was rejected by the Speaker, and those changes were not made here to the House of Assembly. So I would certainly hope, Mr. Speaker, that now that the Minister of Justice finds himself as a Minister of the Crown bringing forward these changes to allow electronic evidence within our system of justice, that he would also take the time to speak to the Speaker and indicate to him his new desire to now have electronic petitions accepted here in the House of Assembly. Because one would think, Mr. Speaker, that what's good for our justice system should also be good for the House of Assembly. And I would make that note of that. Mr. Speaker, the other thing that I want to remark on as well is that I do note that the Minister of Justice, unlike his predecessor and other ministers of justice is actually bringing in pieces of legislation which deal with one specific topic at a time. I was fully expecting that this session we would see the 2007 fall version of the Justice Administration Act, which I've lamented for years, and I note that up to now has not been tabled, and I'm told it will not be tabled, but there's still time, Mr. Speaker, so I'll wait to see if that's going to happen or not. So the new Minister of Justice is bringing them one piece at a time, but I note that the former Minister of Justice, now the Minister of Transportation, has brought to this House Bill number 7, the Motor Vehicle Act, which actually makes a whole host of changes to a number of pieces of legislation. So while he hasn't been able to bring in the Justice Administration Act, it now appears that the same tactics are being used in transportation. I think, Mr. Speaker, once debate starts on Bill number 7, I think both I and a number of my colleagues in our caucus, and I would suspect in the official opposition, will also be raising concerns about that bill and the way it's been presented and the host of changes that are being proposed in that one piece of legislation. So I do want to commend the Minister of Justice and his staff, who I believe have listened to the concerns that I have raised as justice critic. I know that when the Leader of the official opposition held the post of justice critic, he joined me in those concerns, and the previous justice critic for the official opposition before that was as well a vocal critic of that approach to putting in so many changes to different pieces of legislation in one bill. So, Mr. Speaker, I do look forward to this bill going to law amendments. I'm very curious as to what the reaction will be from the Nova Scotia Bar Society, whether they have any concerns with this specific bill or whether there's any changes that can be made to it. But certainly the concept is one that is easy to support. But again, we will wait to see what sort of comments we receive at law amendments and when the bill returns to this House for further comment on it. So with that, Mr. Speaker, those are my comments on Bill number 12 this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now recognize the Honourable the Minister to close debate on Bill number 12.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my honourable colleagues for their comments here this evening, and also in recognizing their acknowledgement of the system and the staff within the Department of Justice and their interaction and their willingness to cooperate. And I just would note, when we talked about the GEN system, which is the Justice Enterprise Information Network, it is used by many entities within the justice system. That includes the judges, the court administrators, police, prosecutors, and other justice partners. And I'm very pleased to speak to the critics that have acknowledged the quality staff, because just a couple of years ago, the Department of Justice employees received the Premier's Award of Excellence for working on that system. So I think it speaks to the quality and the capabilities of the professionals within the Department of Justice. And Mr. Speaker, I look forward to this bill moving to law amendments. And again, we're open-minded with regard if there's other ways to strengthen this. However, I would like to close the debate on the bill. I move second reading.
Thank you. Is the House ready for the question? All those in favour of the motion, please say aye. Against? Motion carried.
Entitled an Act to amend Chapter 154 of the Revised Statutes 1989, the Evidence Act.
Okay. The Honourable the Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I move that the House do now rise and that we meet again tomorrow at the hour of 2 p.m. and the House hours be from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Following the daily routine and question period, government business will be public bills for second reading, and that will be beginning with Bill number 13, the Probate Act, and Bill number 7, the Motor Vehicle Act.
The motion for adjournment has been made. All those in favour of the motion, please say aye. Against? Motion carried. The House will rise to sit again tomorrow at 2 p.m. The House stands adjourned.